Do your people really trust you? Is your organization fostering an environment where people are able to rely on each other, and where that negative energy that goes in doubting whether or not people have got their back is being able to put into being more productive? Well, stick with me, because this week I want to help you to shift that culture. Hi, this is Grant Herbert, VUCA Leadership and Sustainable Performance Coach, and today I want to continue our conversation around relationship management by helping you to build an environment of trust. Think back to the relationships that you've had with leaders in your career. Have there been times where you've doubted what their motives are, where you're thinking about whether or not they've got your back? Are they sharing information and letting you know when things are coming up? Are they keeping their promises? Or are they breaking them? Having that in your mind's eye now, think about your people and think about what they may be perceiving about you. Trust is a critical component that every individual needs to be able to move forward with their leader. We can look all around the world, and there's many examples going on right now where there is a lack of trust, where people just do not put their faith in other human beings because they've been let down. There's a frame of reference around leadership that is not a healthy one. So, as a leader, for you to stand out and to thrive and survive in this volatile world that we live in, you need to be able to be trusted. Beyond that, you need to be able to develop a team that trusts each other. And when you've got that, you can go anywhere together. Attraction and retention of quality people is still an issue. But when teams trust each other, they're happy with the environment that they're in, they stay. And not only do they stay, they give 100% and they work together to get done what it is that you want to get done. I say many times that leadership has changed and that today's leaders need to be taught to lead in today's world. However, trust is a constant. That's not something that's changed. It's been there from day one, where people need to do certain things for you to trust them. So the first thing that we need to do as a leader ourselves is be okay with not having it all together. One of the reasons why there's a loss of trust is that people overpromise to get the approval of their people so that they feel like they belong, that they're good enough and they are liked, and then they underdeliver. People will accept that you are infallible. People will accept that you're not perfect because they're not perfect. So instead of overpromising and then creating a lack of trust, the best thing to do is be realistic, to have a conversation and go, hey, I'd love to be able to get it done by then. However, this is when I'm going to get it done, and then give that. And then if by chance it gets done earlier, everyone's happy. So you can see now how a lot of these things around trust, they go back to that whole identity issue that we've talked about so many times before. Whenever you're trying to seek approval, you'll overpromise, and then you'll fall short on a lot of occasions. You see, trust is something that takes a long time to build because people have had previous experiences. It takes that long to break, and then it's going to take longer again to rebuild it. So what we want to do as a leader is set the scene and the environment around how we operate, and then mentor that with our teams. The second thing that we need to do is communicate. Things change, things happen. And when you are going to get towards a deadline and things have shifted, make sure people know about it. Rather than having a situation where right at the last minute when the deadline's at the door going, oh, I'm not going to be able to make it. And that's where it creates a lot of challenge. I had an issue this morning, just like this, with a supplier where I'm getting a kitchen put in and it's all scheduled, and all those schedules interact with each other. And to get to that end result that you want to get done, everyone has to fall in line with that. I had a particular person who was in that process who just decided to push out when they were going to do what they said they were going to do. And that doesn't just affect that day, it affects every other day in that structure. It affects every other person, and then we have to change the whole thing around. For me, that organization has lost trust with me. So this is what is happening all the time as a leader. We need to be able to anticipate that things are going to shift, and instead of worrying about that people might be upset and not jumping on the phone, letting them know what's going on, just jump on and say, hey, there's a possibility, by the way, do this several days before, that I'm not going to be able to meet the deadline that I said I was going to meet. And that way things can be adjusted without it being a crisis. Trust is important. Trust is a barrier to getting the results. So building that trust so that you remove that barrier, it means that you and your team are going to be able to get a lot more done. Now, as a leader, we are doing these things ourselves. What we need to do is create an environment and a culture where it's okay for people not to have it all together as well, and for them to communicate and feel okay without ramifications of, retribution when they speak up and go, hey, we're not going to be able to meet that deadline, or I'm not going to be able to do this, or I'm not going to be able to stick to that. And therefore, I'm going to push that out a little bit, instead of making promises that everybody has a challenge keeping. Building an environment of trust is going to eliminate a lot of challenges. One of the reasons why people don't delegate is they fail to trust their people to be able to get the same result that they would get if they did it themselves. So make sure that trust is a foundation of everything that you do in your team. You trust them and they'll trust you. It's a two-way street, not a one-way thing. A lot of times people look at it that way, that it's leaders need to be trusted. Well, your people need you to trust them as well. Well, that's it from me for another week. Join me again next week as we continue this conversation around all things leadership. Do what you can to be the leader that your team needs you to be. And that's going to help you to have more influence, more income, and make a bigger impact in your career. I'll see you then.